All right, so thank you everyone for joining us this evening. My name is Shannon McGrady, and I am the Program and Research Coordinator for the Orangeville Library. And my colleague, Lauren Tilley, our Program and Research Librarian, is also on the call with us this evening, ensuring our tech success. So she's in the background, and thank you, Lauren, for playing that video for us. I am very thrilled to introduce local chef, change maker, community champion, and catalyst, Phil Dewar. Through his career in restaurants and through local food events like Carib Fest, which you just saw a video for, Phil has established himself as a community activist. Carib Fest was the first event of its kind in Dufferin County, and it was organized to celebrate Caribbean heritage, history, and culture, and we hope to see more events like that in the future. Continuing his activism, Phil serves as a community outreach leader and speaker with the Dufferin County Canadian Black Association. And previously, Phil managed a social enterprise known as Be Social, which works in partnership with Community Living Dufferin, Family Transition Place, and Dufferin Child and Family Services. Be Social provides person-centered employment for marginalized individuals who would face boundaries in traditional employment. You can find those cafes at the snack bars at the local recreation centers, the Elderbrook Center, as well as at the courthouse. As a food enthusiast, Phil is also a private chef, a caterer, a restaurateur, and a consultant. In fact, he is so busy, I'm so grateful that he was able to join us this evening. If only we could all be sitting around a table enjoying some of his delicious food while we got to hear his stories. So without further ado, I will turn it over to you, Phil.
Wow, thank you so much. Wonderful introduction. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you to the whole Orangeville Library team for having me. Thanks, Lauren, for having the technical support in the background. And good evening to everyone who is here virtually with us. For sure, it would have been nice to, have everyone in a room, but we understand the times. And I was honored to be asked to share my story. I think, yes, a lot of my story in terms of the restaurant business is, known around the town or in the media. So I took this opportunity to kind of, give a little bit more background and a little bit more about the childhood in the middle school and high school ages, just to give you some background on myself. When I was asked to be here this evening, I had been following the storytelling series with Orangeville Library for some time, and just kind of, I know they've been on a pause, but it forced me to kind of put together the story, put together the pieces, and not take for granted that just I know it in myself. So it's been a good exercise for me, number one. And I'm happy that I could be sharing it with everybody here. Man, I see some nice names and some nice initials there. So, and true story, my mom is supposed to be logging on, and she's logging on with a different of a time gap from the island. So I hope to see her initials here sometime soon, because it'll be real nice if she could see this. The exercise, the way I approached it was to try to break it down into sections, sections of my life. And this first section is what I call finding joy in the midst. This is everything probably up until 10 years old. You look at my nice photographs, I'm sure you can see them, riding bicycle barefoot. I still wear the high socks, mom dressing me up nice, birthday parties. This is like a lot of this era I don't actually have full memory of. I have light bulb kind of memory flashes, but it always brings me comfort, and the pictures and the times and the stories always bring me comfort. And I decided to have this as the first era of my story to share with you tonight, because the question is posed to me, what makes community, and sometimes it's geographical, sometimes it's cultural, sometimes it's religion, sometimes it's even just your gym. Go to the gym, that's my gym community, my gym people. If you have a workplace, there's also what you consider your workplace community as well. And so, I had a hard time defining what community is, except for thinking to myself that it's probably all of the above. And so when I was asked what community is, I had to break it down into sections. And for this section, this is called the network. This is finding joy in the midst, and the lesson of this era is the network. This is about being in the islands. This is about growing up with my brothers, my aunts, my uncles, other family members, walking to school as a group, borrowing, that cup of sugar, doing these kind of things as a lifestyle and as, just our force of habit, and just kind of understanding that where we come from, where I come from, it's you need everybody in that network to be chipping in order to thrive. Not everybody had a cell phone, not everybody had a house phone. So you'd be giving a number out to somebody's house. And, guys like myself would have to run from one house to the next to call that person to come back to use the phone and whatnot. So I just wanted to share this part of my story and finding joy there. As I sit back here today and I reflect, I understand now that there was so much joy there, so much carefreeness, and so much innocence as a youth, and it was just such a good time. I had so many fond memories. We could also, Lauren, switch to the next slide, I believe. All right. So just as we're moving on to the second section, as I think I went ahead of myself. Probably I thought there was 2 slides for the first one, but I just also want to share a story that, I spoke with my mom about putting this presentation together. And, one thing we talked about in the previous finding joy and working with the network of the community is, aunts and uncles. There's this story that's kind of folklore in my family, and it's, I guess my mom and her sister, which is my aunt, both had children at the same time. My mom went back to work, my aunt stayed home, and essentially she would nurse both my brother and my cousin at the same time. And then when my mom would come home, she would do the nursing. And it just kind of, it presented to me something that I felt was so authentic, and something that really sums up that first era, working together and literally, you say you took the shirt off your back, but literally feeding somebody else's child. And it occurred to me that that's a powerful statement, and that's part of the network. So that's like a big foundational principle for me, and you'll see this reoccurring over the course of our presentation today, is that the network, the togetherness is a big deal for me. And so that's building block number 1 for community. Building block number 2 is each one teach one. This is just how I understand it to be. This kind of summarizes, I would say about 10 years or 11 to maybe 15, This is coming here, to this country, finding my way, being a larger family, figuring out those dynamics, choosing one show after school, compromising, problem solving. There's a beautiful family picture there on the top left that I'm sure everybody could see. I'm in the background there, but you could see, see everybody there were wonderful. And it just, when I say each one teach one, there's such an age range there. If you look in some of the earlier pictures, my younger sister's not even yet born. Her name is Rachel. She's the last one. And I think she's born in 97. So what ends up happening is, from the oldest brother, which is 81, to 97, you have quite a gap of years. And I'm somewhere in the middle there. And what was happening is I was kind of learning, looking up one way, brothers and sisters, and kind of learning, looking down one way, brothers and sisters. And I found that in my growth as a person, this just helped me to compound my learning. At one point, I'm the youngest sibling, learning and being looked after. And then at one point in my life, I'm also the older sibling, looking after 2 younger ones. And it kind of, forced me to kind of understand different roles and different positions in the family, and different responsibilities and different levels of authority that either I would have at some points or wouldn't have at some points. And so, to this day, I thank my brothers, I thank my sister, I thank my parents too, who, they ran a pretty tight ship. And I think if I could say that's another principle and another foundational pillar in my story, discipline and, your word is your bond in a sense. And that was important around my house, saying what you mean, meaning what you say. In this era, I also did like, when I say each one teach one, we're all in the band, we're all in choir, we're all in either Pathfinders or Boy Scouts or cadets. We did instruments, we're learning about money. We used to shovel driveways, all those little things that young people do to make a little money. We learn a little discipline when, as a family of 6, you can't always go to the summer camp. You can't always go to the event because the rule around the house was, it's everyone's going or nobody's going. So, you learn to kind of get along with your siblings. I was saying earlier to Shannon too, as we were speaking, preparing for this, it's I think I take this as my superpower. One thing that I used to say, man, I miss out on so many opportunities because if everybody can go, I can go. And so what it forced, not forced, what it allowed us to do was figure out our dynamics. I never felt like I didn't belong. We went to the park as a group, and we were the fun at the park. I didn't have to ring doorbells, or I didn't have to ask for people to, can you come out to play, or, not know if I was feeling, if I belong, does this person like me? Do they not like me? As a unit, we would always go to a place, and we just always were. And I think, we were kind of discussing earlier that gave me a lot of confidence as a young person. It gave me a lot of sense of self, sense of community, as we're speaking about that. And it allowed me to feel like I belong and gave me that confidence. And I think that's something that lives with me to this day. And I think that it's instrumental in young people as they're being developed to kind of, have somebody who's encouraging them, somebody who they know. And I have 5, 6, 7, 8 other people in this world that I know that when all else is fails, they have my back. And we had the same DNA and we're cut from the same cloth. And that's a comforting thing to know in this large world. So that's when I say each one teach one. That's probably the number 2 principle in all of my foundational building blocks of community. One thing I really learned from here to bookend was about values and, maybe the power of together, the power of a group, the power of us. And that's something that I still live by to this day. I don't think we can do it all on our own. And I do think we need that network, as we said in number 1, and then we need the group of people that are with you doing the task as number 2. Lauren, we could probably get to the next slide too. All right. This is like my favorite part, to be honest with you. I can't wait to tell you some stories we can't tell tonight because this is being recorded for is being recorded for public library and public content. So some stories you guys will have to see me and we'll tell about those high school. But this is a very a pivotal moment for me as a young man now, coming from, the confines of a home, kind of getting out there into the high school era, making friends. We moved to a new community as Orangeville, and I'm sure that now, in the wake of all what we've endured over the last 2 years, and in the wake of the Black Lives Matter, we can all understand that, being a young Black man in this world right now, it's a different experience sometimes. And at the time, I don't think I was cognizant of that. I didn't really experience, too much of that discrimination, but you know, or it was kind of subtle and I didn't know, I didn't understand some stuff. So this is an era where I say to you, never stop learning because life never stops teaching. You know, at that era, you think you know it all. I'm probably 16 years old. I think I have it figured all the way out. I know what I want to do for the rest of my life. I know these guys will be my friends forever. I know I'm gonna have this job. I'm gonna drive this car. I'm gonna have this many dogs. This many, you know, you think you have it figured, and you know, life will teach you every step along the way. And you know, I look back at this because it became some crossroads for me. You know, and you look at those pictures. On one side, I'm playing in the band with you know, some group of folks that I get along really well with, and then you know, I'm in the jazz band with them and we're playing some beautiful music, and they respect me and they love me. And then there's the picture on the left side where I'm walking through the hallway, or prior to even getting to know them, they might have cast judgment, or they would have been like, oh, hey, how's it going? Or they could have been indifferent. And then, you know, these are all the same person. And I put these pictures on there specifically, even the bottom left one, which I contemplated, but this represents me. It represents a portion. It represents the cumulative experience. And so this is all the same person. And I think sometimes in that high school era, it will have you to believe, society will have you to believe that you belong over here because you play with the band. You belong over here because you play sports. You belong over here because, you know, you're cool, or you're the hot girl or the hot boy, or you have the nice clothes, or you drive, or you have money. And I think my experience in these years, I was kind of deciphering those things. I was trying to understand, well, how is it that I could play band with these guys, play ball with these guys, hang out on the weekend with these guys, and yet still these groups don't actually ever exist together. And I did a lot of what I call code switching, which is something that I've talked to some friends about, some people on here too, and you might have heard that term, where when you're with that group, you kind of flex, or you present yourself a certain way. And then when you're with this group, you present yourself a certain way. And, you know, not that I agree with that, but this era in my life taught me that. It taught me to be versatile, taught me to be resilient. It taught me how to influence some groups. It taught me how to listen on some groups. It, you know, I was finding my way, and it was an interesting time. It was probably my, I don't want to say my best time or my glory years, because I don't believe that is a thing, but it felt really nice to know that I belong in different groups and I was versatile enough. And I continued to listen to the teachings. I continued to play music, continued to play sports. I continued to hang out with, you know, whatever they deem as the cool kids on the weekend. I went to the parties and had the fun and did all the stuff. But then, you know, also had a worst experience. So I started to understand how to channel some of that, how to give myself access to spaces that, you know, well, normally under circumstances, I wouldn't have access to this space. And so this was what was being taught to me at this time. I had a wonderful principal at the time. You know, after some altercation at the high school, which happens, it was like, you know, he sat me down and it was a choice of whether I had to kind of, you know, walk away from high school. Essentially, he was going to expel me. I'll say that in a nice way. Or, you know, do detention for the rest of the semester. And then I chose in myself to do the detention, and I needed to stay in school. And after about 3 weeks of the detention, he determined that, hey, this guy's really just listening to his Walkman and hanging out. So he's gonna put me to volunteer in the cafeteria. And so this was the beginning of my culinary experience. As a grade 11 student, he forced me to pick up a grade 10 cooking class and volunteer in the cafeteria on my lunch. And this is first semester grade 11, so here I am in the kitchen and then volunteering in the caf. And I realized, like, man, I really enjoy this type of atmosphere. I enjoy this type of work. I, see friends coming through the line, let one guy off with a poutine, it became a way of how I would communicate. And I was in kind of a position of power, and it was fun and it was exciting. And so I really enjoyed this time. But again, it teaches you because you start to understand, being behind the counter, which was kind of a place that was supposed to be disciplined, allowed me access and allowed me to build friendships, allowed me to in the community of the school, it gave me certain leverage. And so in these years, I really started to take a lot of that stuff in and soak it in, soak it in. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And if people on here really understand, sometime back in the day, I was part of the double cohort year where they stopped OAC in grade 13. And so there was a lot of people making their way to universities in that one year. And there's a big emphasis put on your school grades and your marks and where you were going and have you applied and have you been accepted. And I really wasn't quite there academically. So I kind of took a liking to the cooking. So after that grade 11 year, the second semester, I signed up for the grade 11 class. And that was also brought me deeper into the passion and really enjoying it, really cooking, making good food, attending class, and having good free lunch at that time. And it was a great time. So again, life is teaching me that. It's teaching me also not to cast judgment, right? Teaching me from my band friends to my, other childhood friends to the friends over there in your English class and the friends in the gym and the friends in the fitness. It taught me not to really cast judgment. I did learn I was different though. And I learned that, there was these underlying things that I didn't identify or know as prejudice or racism or what it was, but I just understood I had to be able to navigate into these spaces. And it was quite a learning curve. So I learned those days are important, man. And we're going to move on to the next section, which is the era number 4. No, I like this is my favorite time. I said last time, this is my favorite time. Era is titled, you want some, you get some, or you go take some. And this is what I would refer to as the come up, if anybody into hip hop music in the group. This is what I would call like my Reasonable Doubts, like a Jay-Z album, one of my favorite albums. This is me rash, and this is me brash and raw and going out to get life. At this point, you graduate high school, the dust has settled, people have moved to different communities, Kitchener, Guelph, Brampton, Toronto, Cambridge, wherever they went. Some people still in town working. And you're figuring yourself out. I went into culinary school shortly after high school and knew what I wanted to do. I'd already gotten 3 years in high school of, this is the life for me. I worked in the restaurants here in town, in the Burger King. There's a Burger King, I think was Angel's Diner now, if you know Orangeville, anybody. There was a Burger King there back in the day. That was my job. I worked at the Garden Market IGA, which is now Freshco. That was a good job. I worked in the deli, got food experience, and I just loved every second of it. I knew what I wanted to do, but I also knew that, I didn't necessarily have the finances, I didn't have the funding, and necessarily didn't have the support of, the support financially, but also the support of go get this. When you come as an immigrant family to a new country, oftentimes your parents, they want the best for you, and I love them every time. But sometimes they're pushing you into things that aren't necessarily for you or aren't necessarily your passion. And this is a fight I had to fight in my household day in and day out. You know, um, my father thinking of his sacrifice and what he, put forward to kind of bring us here, wanted to see us capitalize on that investment and wanted us to be astronauts or marine biologist was the big deal back in, or pilot, all these lawyer, doctor. And here I was saying to him, I want to be a chef, or I want to work in the food, I want to work in restaurant. At that time, even it wasn't like I want to be a chef. It's like I just want to be a cook. I want to cook food for a living. And I remember going home and saying, yeah, this is what I want to do. And it was like, what? That was a conversation and a half. It was a tough time. So then I had to figure my own way. There was no financial investment there. I had to find a way. Everybody gets OSAP, goes away to school. I moved to the city. I was figuring my way. If you see the top left there, in culinary school with a good friend, John Fingal. He's a good guy. He lives out in Belleville. Hopefully he'll see this one day. I started my apprenticeship right after that, after culinary school at Hockley Valley. Finished up at 199 restaurant here in the town. While I was doing my apprenticeship, I went off to do Ontario Technical Skills Challenge, and there I am placing a bronze medal in all of Ontario for my year. That was a very, very big thing. So it was like everything I wanted, I was going for at that time. I was working midnights, driving forklift, shipping and receiving, and going to school in the day. I had my little apartment. I was just going to get life. I wanted life, like I said. I got life, and I was gonna go take more life. I was excelling in my culinary skill. I was top of the class. I knew what I wanted. I was going for it. I was doing it twice on Sundays. All those cliches, I was making those moves for myself, and I felt very confident. And so this taught me definitely to pursue your dreams, And one thing I was pulling from this was I didn't have much option, but instead of looking at it like I don't have much option, I looked at it as, man, it just created clarity for me. Instead of having university and going to Trent or going wherever, I didn't have none of those options. So it gave me hyper focus on what I wanted to do. And I just was able to stick with that and put all my eggs in one basket. So I was either gonna be really successful, or I was gonna fail and be broke. And I took that chance. And so this teaches me to go after your dreams, this area. If you want something, go get it. And if you want it bad enough, go take it. And I say that with all gumption, and I say that with all bravado, because I believe in that to this day. So as I'm building my community building blocks, I'm moving from the network, I'm moving to the values and the togetherness. I'm also moving to not casting judgment and and keep learning. And I'm moving into wanting some and going to get some. I'm reminded here about a story of while I was at Hockley Valley, they did some kind of, golf tournaments, whatever the case is. And I worked that day. They had all these nice cars, Maserati. That's the first time I see those kind of cars in real life. Maserati. What else is a fancy car? All them nice ones, Viper, whatever. I'm not a car guy. I don't know. Just, and I remember the owners there at each, letting you sit in the cars, took me for a spin around in the cars, and the greatest food we have ever had. It was a big annual event, and it was like, man. And so I remember coming home, and this is on the eve of me and my father really having a falling out based on my career choice, and saying like, those kind of work won't get you anywhere. And I was showing him the pictures. I had a nice digital camera at the time, showing him the pictures. Look at, I got access to these things. This world, this food business will get me into places. It's gonna give me a ticket to go where I want to go and do what I want to do. And I was trying to convince him, but he wasn't convinced. I don't know if he's even convinced now, to be honest with you, but I'm convinced. I was convinced that day, sitting in a Maserati, working, eating nice food, eating oyster and all the nice, luxurious food. It was like, man, great. This business is gonna give me a ticket. So this was my learning curve at this point. And I believe there's another slide about this, right? If you want to click to the next slide, Lauren. Yeah. Oh, this is good. This is good. Oh, yes. So this is my graduation day, and some good friends, people who really helped me out. Whitney is bottom left. She lived here in this town. Matter of fact, she used to live in Bolton. She moved to Orangeville years later, but we're good friends. She's a wonderful friend. Um, she helped me a lot during school, to be honest with you, about how this is what I mean. In theory, from a high school or even in a college level, she would belong to another group, or society wouldn't tell us that we're going to be friends, but we found a good friendship. And, certainly she was, instrumental really in helping me good study habits, how to study and how to take tests and what to look for, how to pay attention. And I thank her to this day. I'm going to give her a call after this, to be honest, just to tell her thanks again. And the gentleman above, John Lou, he's a Mississauga guy. He just working with me and allowing me to lead when we did chef challenge, or when we did hotel work, or when we did rooms division, or even the hospitality math and hospitality law. He really helped me out with that stuff. And then there's me on the right side, young, fresh, ready to go, with some nice eyebrows too. Yeah, man. Want some? Get some. If you want some bad enough, go take some. And I think, yeah, yeah. That's that era. We can move on. Can we can I pause and say, I know me talking for X amount of time is cool too, but can we break the structure of the Shannon, maybe you could speak to this. Can we break the structure and see if there's any questions so far, or do we want
Sure.
to just keep rolling, or maybe open it up a little bit before we get on to the next half? We're about
Sure, that's
halfway
no
there.
problem.
Is that okay?
Yes. So you're welcome to raise your hand with that little happy face icon on your toolbar, or you can type your comment into the chat and I can relay that to Phil.
Yeah, maybe we'll take like 5 questions or so, just to kind of break the vibe up a bit and keep it cool.
So Phil, I've got a comment to share.
Mm-hmm.
So you shared on your slide, never stop learning and life never stops teaching us. Mm-hmm. And I heard recently the quote from Jim Rohn, I believe it was, a motivational speaker, who said that we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So those who we surround ourselves with have a huge impact on the way we think, our self-esteem, and our overall sense of self and the decisions that we make. So knowing that, and knowing your experiences in high school and being part of all of these different groups, what sort of advice would you give to youth right now who are in high school and kind of figuring out their identity, circling among these different groups? What would you recommend?
Yeah, that's a fair question. I mean, in my opinion, I would tell them that when you're there in high school, you think it's everything. You think those 4 years it's an eternity. It develops you. It's everything of who you are, and it's like, if only we could understand that in the scheme of life and in the scheme of things is just a blip on the radar, and that there's so much more life and so much more left to have. So that would be my understanding, or my conversation with the person, is that it's hard to, and when you're living it, it's hard to know that. But as a personal counselor or parent or guardian or teacher, I would just let them know, just get through, make it through. Some of those friends you're never gonna see again. Some of those people, teachers, some of these classes, they mean zero in the scheme. And I maybe there's a more eloquent way to phrase that, but it's like, just get through, and start to build. This is really just a baseline as to what life has in store for you. And the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, there's people who are not successful in their 60s, that high school is such a long way away in the rear view. And so I would encourage them not to put all of their value on what those 4 years is giving to them. Take what you can from it, and move on to take what you can, and life is going to teach you and give you lessons. Put those skills and tools in your utility belt and keep walking on to the next round.
Great advice. Thank you. And I don't see any questions or comments coming through, but I'll just share one thing before we turn it back to you to continue. You referenced how being a big part of being a part of a big family was your first introduction to community. So not only did it help you establish a sense of belonging, but it taught you the importance of learning from your elders, not just your parents, but your older siblings, and the responsibility you had to teach your younger siblings. So just maybe you can speak to this a bit more as it relates to the greater community and maybe our responsibilities as citizens to not only engage with our elders and learn from them, but also have the responsibility to teach our youngsters.
Correct. Well, I mean, that's why I'm, even events such as these is why I'm involved and why I think it continues to fuel me to do other things outside of just my job. These are the type of things that we need to be practiced, and I think sometimes we step away from it a bit too much. I do think we need to take counsel from somebody older. We need to hold on to, some of their experiences and learn from them. A lot of times when you're young, you want to figure it out on your own. And I believe that's also valuable. I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel every time. And I think we should be leaning on our elders a little bit more, 100% in a lot of ways, we could sit a long time here and discuss that, but, in a nutshell, I would say it's very important. It's very important to be listening more than you're speaking. It's very important to be listening to those who have done it before and see how some of those things you can apply them to your life. And I would recommend that we all take that principle in every stage of life that we're at and try to apply it there.
Excellent. So we received a comment from Luke, who I have a feeling might know you personally. He's asking if you can still play the trombone like a boss. And what's your secret ingredient to the jerk chicken power patty?
Wow. Well, we're going to talk about power patty another time, number one. But thank you, Luke. Yeah, Luke played the drums, I believe. Is that right? Yo, Luke Marshall. Good dude, man. Yeah, I know I can't play a note anymore, to be honest with you, bro. I can't play a note, and I went to Aardvark the other day. I tried to rent a trombone. I thought about it, but life gets busy and the kids and the life and stuff. So in another time, in another era, perhaps I'll pick back up the music and see if we can revisit that and hang a B flat,
And just one more comment from Mo's Painting, that they miss your reggae rap.
Awesome. Well, that's very nice to hear. We appreciate that. There'll be lots of time in the summer to kind of, we're going to do a couple food events over the summer. So it'll be nice to stay tuned on the internet channels, the Facebook and the Instagram for the food news.
Sounds good.
All right. I'll keep rolling then. Let's go. Ready?
We're ready.
All right. Sorry. Okay, cool. So entrepreneurship and expectations is the next era of my life. This is culinary school is done. The fast life in the city is done. The late nights, early morning is finished. This is kind of now trying to figure out what's next. I finished my apprenticeship here in town. I was still working at the Hockley Valley. And a friend of mine, his name is Josh. He's in the top left picture with me in the black shirt. So his father is from my same country. His father brought them, my understanding of the story, and maybe there's some nuance that I'm missing out, but they might have went for a family vacation and he brought them back to his community where he grew up, and wanting to help out his public school that he grew up at, he decided to start a fundraiser here in Canada at the farmers market. And so this is just telling you that sometimes you don't even know what you're getting yourself into. And so this is the beginning of Soul Life for everybody who knows or doesn't know. And I want you to pay attention to the fact that this started just as a volunteer and started as a fundraiser. And so sometimes you don't even know how you're affecting and what things you're attracted to and how these things will continue to play a role and continue to reappear in your life. This is Mike Blake. He's the bottom left. He's standing beside me. And he's also in the top right picture. Is Josh's dad, who's here with us in the spiritual form. He left us physically, but we love him still, and quite a pioneer. And volunteer hockey coach, volunteer soccer coach, did all the things. And so he believed in the entrepreneurship. And so me and Josh lived together down in the city. We played ball over in Orangeville, rep Hawks ball and stuff like that. And so he said one afternoon, I got to help my dad with, help him out at the farmer's market. So, okay, I'll come with. We went with, and we saw what he was doing. And he called us up the next week and said, well, apparently it's going to be a pretty big weekend next week. You guys think you can come and help again? So, at this point, we're saying, okay, cool. Yeah, we'll come up and we'll help him out. And we understand that to be the Orangeville Blues and Jazz Festival today in its or I don't say infancy, but in its earlier years. This probably is 2006 or 7. So we come up and we help him out, and we're really kind of creating a buzz for ourselves at the market. If you see, I'm wearing the flag like a cape. We're playing some jump up music. People are enjoying our vibe and our flair, and we're bringing a little bit of culture to the market. And I think, people like that. People were looking for something fresh and vibrant, and we were there providing that. And, we continued that market season. And then we continued the same thing the following year. And what we did realize as young entrepreneurs, myself and Josh, his dad is prompting us, well, look, guys, this is something that could be. This is something that, Orangeville is missing. Even during the off season, during the market, we would get emails, or he would tell us, I saw somebody in the Sobeys or the grocery store, and they asked me if they could order some food or whatever the case may be. And we said, we see an opportunity here. So the summer of 2008, we really took it another step serious, and, got, took it a little more serious at the market and started to really make a business of it, just a small business. Mike and Sid were there helping us out and making sure, under their guidance, we were, doing things in the right way. Even in the top right picture, that's the principal of Seaford Primary School at the time. And we invited her, and she came and she spent 2 weeks up here with us. I forget her name off my head, but wonderful lady. And we invited her to show her, but we sent skids down of coolers, sent skids down of stuff to help them cook lunches for the students. All kind of stuff. So these are the expectations, and these are some of the people that continue to instill in me. Well, why are we doing this? Yes, we're making a little bit of money, but here's what this is about. It for the first 2 years, we were doing it volunteer to fundraise. In the second and the third year, we started to make some money to provide for ourselves, but then also still fundraise. At the end of that summer, we decided to host like a dinner and a dance. And we did it at what's called the Orangeville Senior Center now. It's over by the railway, across from KC Gardens, if you know the area. And then that was the beginning of Soul Life, It was actually the beginning of Love to Cook, which was, the original name of us at the time, young people doing young people things. It was a great time. We experienced different things at the market. We experienced organic farmers. We experienced beekeepers. We experienced people that were, butchers raising cattle, people that were doing things different. Even though we had a certain experience, we said to ourselves, wow, like, look at this experience. And we found similarities in their experience and found similarities in their hustle and in their grind and the work that they did. And so, these are things that were inspiring you. And then again, the overarching theme in this era is just developing entrepreneurship and making sure that you're carving expectations for yourself. And, we've, sorry, I lost my spot. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Is there another slide for this one? Entrepreneurship and expectation? Yes. So this is the second half of that era. As it went on into 2009, we did the farmers market that very summer. A place became available in downtown Orangeville, and we were able to secure the space under the loan from his parents, or a gift, I should say. I don't think we paid them back, but they're lovely people. I still owe you money, Sid. But they gifted us and tutored us and made sure that we were able to secure this space. We had some friends that were on board with us, and then we pushed forward. One thing was in our experience as people from the islands, we wanted to make sure that once I was going through culinary school and realizing that French cuisine, Italian cuisine, all of these things were getting elevated, but I didn't see very much of my own cuisine being reinterpreted or elevated on a certain dining level. And so what we thought was going to be our calling card was exactly that. Using the authentic original style and flavors to create something that is more contemporary. And then that was more of our identity, using culinary skills and the now training that I had just gone through, how to use that to elevate the Caribbean cuisine. In doing so, we were featured on this wonderful TV show that's broadcasted nationally. It's actually the 9-year anniversary of the airing of our episode, the 23rd, on Saturday. This Saturday is the 9-year anniversary. So it's been 9 years since this. And look at my face 9 years ago, right? Father time. Yeah, so it was a great experience. It brought us a lot of exposure, brought us a lot of accolade. It catapulted us into a different level. At that time, island cuisine, especially up here, was, if not absent, very far and few between. And it allows us to create an identity for ourselves. It allowed us to snuggle up amongst the other restaurants as an option for dining. We ended up getting a liquor license. We ended up getting debit. We started doing all these things as we were progressing as businessmen, as young entrepreneurs. And this area taught me about respect, earning your respect. It taught me about earning respect in the restaurant community here, as far as other established restaurants. Taught me about earning respect in a community that was not as open or as welcoming to what we were bringing to the table initially. We were brash young men. Our music was loud. We were bringing the culture. We were bringing the noise, and some were not as receptive initially. And so, it allowed me to understand about earning people's respect. When they came in, every plate, every meal had to be just so spot on, because you might not have another chance to impress upon them. They might never come back through your doors again. So it allowed me to continue to earn that respect. Speaking of you gotta eat here, as I come back to that, yeah. No, I won't even bother. We'll just forget about that part. We'll move to the next slide. Wow, okay, passion as purpose. This is the next era for me. This is after we had kind of become the household restaurant. We were known in our town and our region very well. We were moving forward in stride. We had some good management, some good team in place, some people instrumental in moving us forward. And it was like, well, what's next for us? I was very passionate about what we were doing, but we were in kind of a smaller location, not really controlling any destiny, didn't really have the things that we wanted to do to make the impression we wanted to make. And so we ended up moving our restaurant down to the corner of the street. If you look at the top left picture, it's 34 Mill Street. And we moved from 19 Mill Street to 34, and it was a historic building, to be honest with you. The founder of Orangeville had this house built for his son as a wedding present. So we found some nice artifacts in there while we were renovating, and it was a good time. But in this era, I just really pursued my passion. You know, I pursued, promoting and really doubling down on what my principles were. Being steadfast, cooking good food, reaching out to the community. If you look at Headwaters, we were part of the Headwaters big marketing campaign. If you look at the top right picture, you'll see Carib Fest, which is a video we showed you earlier, the very first Caribbean festival in all of Dufferin County. We were able to break down some and warm up to people's hearts, and they invited us into their home and we invited them to our restaurant. We were able to represent and ambassador culture across the entire region. In this instance, we also did like Orangeville Dinner Series. We did the Alton Mill Cuisine Arts. We were awarded BIA awards, Reader's Choice Awards. We were winners of Macaroni and Cheese Festivals, Celebrate Your Awesome. Jim Waddington, the founder, started it there and had the very first meeting upstairs the restaurant, and I asked him how I can be a part of it, how we could support as a restaurant. And so, a little known fact is we also opened another restaurant in Guelph during this time for a year and a half, I want to say, and that was also a big learning curve. So in this one, we're saying pursue your passion as the purpose for moving your life forward. This is something I learned in this era, and this is something I'll pass on to others as well. And then I think there's another slide coming up too.
Bill, did you want to show your video here?
I did want to show the video. Yes.
Yeah, I'll go into that 1 sec.
Okay, let's connect to that. Yes. Just a quick break. We'll take watch this video.
Oh, we don't have sound, Lauren. Just while we're waiting for the video to come back, I just want to circle back to what you were saying with, everything you're doing, making sure your purpose has, or that your passion has a purpose, and that when you're going forward that you keep that intact and always ensure that your values stay intact, even as you were really growing and your business started to boom. You must have took work to ensure that you were still living according to what you set out to be a dream, and also lifting others along the way in the community and working with those other community groups. Oh, you're muted, Phil.
Sorry, 100%. That's at the forefront of it. That's always been the leading cause. And if you could see the theme from, all the different pillars that I spoke about, you can see the reoccurring theme to let you know that was the purpose. I felt like I had a whole community, a whole ancestry, and a whole culture on my back, and I really wanted to make sure we go and nail it. But I couldn't do it on my own. We had a good team in house, and obviously working with the other groups around to make sure that we were moving the needle forward. That was the goal, and I think we're in a better place for it now, especially in this small town.
All right, we'll give the video.
This video is just going to show just how we moved from the historic building and kind of the renovation that we did to create the restaurant that we now have, or we had, sorry.
Yeah, the sound isn't working, but we can still watch it. Maybe you can walk us through it a little bit, Phil. You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry, this is just showing some snapshots of the space and how we redid it. We gutted the walls, replaced all the electrical. One of the biggest things that we did do was rebuild the patio on the outside. And we had a cool feature where the town didn't necessarily allow us to cut the tree down, which we didn't want to, but we had to figure out how to build the patio around it. So this is the space, historic building brought back to the studs and then reconstructed to be, a very good restaurant. 2016 awards and medals. There's the book of You Gotta Eat Here. This is the Patio Project, which was about 2016. And we paved as well, paved the driveway beside. You can see the tree in full bloom. Just such a beautiful anchor to the end of the street. You started to hear people in Orangeville say, well, where you want to go? And it was just like, well, let's just go to Mill Street instead of let's go, because there was another restaurant across the street. So we created a very good vibe for the dining and entertainment business in downtown Orangeville.
Phil, do you want to mention the time capsule that you guys created?
Yeah, I would love to mention that. Yeah, when we were digging and we found like an old tin lunchbox with some postcards and some newspaper and a magazine cover. And what we did was, we took it out and we ended up putting copies of our renovation process in there and binding it and putting it back, and it's tiled underneath the floor in the kitchen there. So hopefully, maybe in 100 years, 120 years, when somebody guts the building again, they might find it and be able to tell the story or tell two stories. So the original story and ours. So we look forward to that sometime. And I think that's a pretty cool thing to do. Yes, and I think we're going to move right to the next one, number 7 building block. This is also Passion as Purpose. So winning Board of Trade, Young Entrepreneur of the Year, representing the town, and the front pages of the banner, 2018 Headwaters Tourism Awards for Best Festival and Tourism Champion of the Year. Best Festival was awarded to Carib Fest, and then Tourism Champion of the Year was awarded to myself for the work that the restaurant was doing above and beyond and outside of the county and bringing people here for tourism. The last section that we're going to talk about is, the closing of the restaurant and life after the restaurant, which is, I think, the most recent news. So this section is called, let me make sure I got my words right. Stumbling blocks becoming stepping stones. So yes, the restaurant closed in December of 2018. I was having some health trouble. Maybe I was working myself too hard. I actually ruptured my Achilles as well. And so the end of that era was like, it was a tough time for me. I don't think I left the house for probably 2 weeks. I was, I was defeated. I was tired. I was maybe embarrassed. I was maybe depressed. I don't know, and I didn't know how to feel. I was just kind of like everything I had worked for, everything that was my purpose for so long, is now gone. And who am I? Where do I fit in the scheme of things? And so again, sometimes having vacant space and having time, life will provide. You have the tools, like we said. Life is giving you lessons every step along the way. You have the tools. You've conducted yourself diligently. You've made connections. You've been a person of your word. You've worked with people. You've created bridges. You've opened up avenues. And now all of that stuff, what I'm finding in life after the restaurant, is rewarding me. So, the folks at Good Lot here at the bottom left, When they first brewed their first batch of beer, we met them through the tourism network, and they wanted us to be serving their beer. They approached us. We were the first restaurant to serve Good Lot in all of the Orangeville and area. We're the first restaurant on their bill that they were serving beer to. And I say that to say, after the restaurant, these are the first people that called me back when the restaurant was closed to say, Phil, you know, we're opening up our patio come this summer, and we'd love to have you come back there and host an event. And we ended up hosting a brunch there. And so this is the type of thing, how these things reciprocate. And if you continue to conduct yourself in a certain way, it will always return to you. The top left picture is at Ambray Farm. Ambray, Jamie Richards, he was a teacher in my high school, and I met him through the restaurant. He's an organic vegetable farmer, and he was supplying our restaurant with herbs, with microgreens, and with, you know, seasonal foods that we were able to use for specials and whatnot. And prior to that summer, we started a farm education program that's still living to this day. And you can check out his website too to find out when we're running program over the summer. But he invited me to come back to his farm to run a farm education. What happens at the farm? You know, how do vegetables actually grow? What can you do with these vegetables? And then we do a demonstration to show from a chef perspective how it goes from farm to the table. The picture on the top right is just about following your calling in the spirit of Mike Blake, in the spirit of, you know, Margaret Frey Smith, in the spirit of my mom, in the spirit of people who have come before me, you know, standing out. If you see something, you say something. And so this is the Black Lives Matter rally that started in Orangeville by a lady by the name of Patty. And, you know, I supported her, and she called to me, and we, you know, able to coordinate this effort in the wake of the George Floyd situation from in the States, and kind of speaking out on racism, speaking out on oppression and, you know, injustices. And so this is something that I also participated in and spearheaded with her. And again, these are just the principles culminating. This is like, it's just a collection of everything else coming to fruition. So when I thought the stumbling block was losing everything, who my identity is, it's like these building blocks were always there and they will always be there. And it's nice to know that the foundation is strong and you can build from these spaces at all times. If you can go to the next slide, Lauren. Oh, that's the last slide. Oh, there's one more. There you go. Oh, I think that's it. Okay. So in this area, like I said, we just learned to turn the stumbling blocks into stepping stones. You know, every breakdown is a breakthrough, is one thing I was also saying. And it just led me to believe that if you conduct yourself a certain way, there's always going to be space for you. And this is kind of, you know, my story and what community means to me. I do think that over the last 2 years, you know, during the COVID era, you know, we have lost a lot of that. And, you know, there's been some divisiveness. And so one thing I want to encourage everybody on here is to let's stitch back that fiber of community, and you know, let's start to come back together again as we once did. And I do think that those principles never go anywhere, and I'd love to see that people continue to exercise that. And that's my story, man. I thank everyone for being here. I think we're going to open up to some question and answer. Is that right, Shannon?
Yeah, we'll stop sharing so then we can see you back on the screen. And I invite everyone to, you can unmute yourselves or put your hand up if you have any questions. There were some comments in the chat that I'll just relay. So a question from Sue. She's asking, what brought your family from Jamaica to Orangeville?
Well, it wasn't a direct trip to Orangeville, but, you know, I think a lot of people, and this is a conversation I just recently had with some friends. I think a lot of people in the islands at those times in particular, and maybe still now, they think or they feel that there's a better life here. There is this push to kind of you know, be in these spaces. And so I think at that time that was pretty prevalent thought. And so my folks, you know, migrated. My mom still lives there. I moved here with my dad. And my mom is on the chat. I see her name. Hi, mom.
Hi,
Yeah.
Son.
Yeah, so you know what brought us here was, I think, the pursuit of a better life, of more opportunity, of you know, those type of things that I think. And the strangest thing is now I'm realizing, you know, lots of people here are saying, "Oh, we bought a villa in Costa Rica, and we bought a place down in Dominican, and we have a retire in Jamaica," and it's like, you know, who had it right to begin with? It's like living comfortably, having a nice balance in life. But I think there was this idea that you had to go and have this life. And what I'm seeing kind of in my lifetime is people are now reverting back to balance, you know, working from home, different work weeks, making sure they protect their inner peace and those kind of stuff. And it's like, it's kind of come around full circle for me in my lifetime. So that's a good question, Sue. That's probably why we came. Um, I hope that answers the question you have.
And just to comment on what you were just saying about finding that balance, you were saying how you filled a gap, you know, in the food scene in Orangeville. You didn't see your community or your culture represented, so you created that, and you created that identity for yourself and for others. And that at times you felt a lot of pressure, you know, to earn respect in that process, and as a result, you had a really high bar of expectation for yourself. So I can imagine that was quite the burden at times. So what advice would you give to others to help them not only pursue and achieve their dreams and their goals, but to maintain that balance while they are doing it?
Wow. So I don't know if you could. So while you're doing it, you're kind of head down. I'm speaking almost retrospectively. At the time, probably I didn't understand all the things I do now. When you're kind of working it, you're just doing all what you can do because you believe in something. And now I can speak to a lot of those things. I don't I don't know how to. I'm not sure I can answer that, Shannon. Sorry. I don't know.
That's okay. We're always still learning, and I think it's one of those things that you never achieve balance. You're always kind of working towards it.
Yeah, working towards,
And it's
sure.
that continued reflecting and tying it back to your initial goals and your purpose.
Yeah, no, thank you for saying that.
We do have a question from Linda. She said last summer she learned a little too late that you were at Good Lot. And where is the best place to learn where you will be this summer? So where can people, should they follow you on social media? How can they find out where you'll be?
Yeah. So on Facebook, you can find Soul Live. We're doing a little bit of a rebrand as we approach this summer, but you can find us on Facebook at Soul Life, SOULYVE. It would be Soul Life Catering. And you can find us on Instagram through there, Soul Life as well. And just rebuilding a new site and stuff in the wake of restaurant closing and just rebranding. And again, my growth as a professional and a personal, just to kind of represent that updated version. So continue to grow, right?
And Anne has shared, thank you for giving us your time. You are an inspiration for those who may be afraid to follow their passion.
Follow it.
And Mo has shared, thank you, Phil, for sharing your story and continuing to be an inspiration.
Thank you, Mo.
And Anthony has posed a challenging question. If you could invite any 3 people, alive, dead, or historical, for a special dinner, who are you feeding?
Wow. Some athlete, probably one of my favorite basketball players. You know, I would probably invite, you know, a guy by the name of Kevin Garnett, feed with him, talk to him about basketball. I would probably invite some kind of musician. It would probably be you know, a Stevie Wonder, that kind of inspirational person about the music and go back to my roots with sound. And somebody in history, you know, maybe the Mandelas, the Marcus Garvey, talk to somebody who was here back then who could tell me and I could tell them how it is now. So somebody of that type of influence in my life.
Excellent. I think that's a great question for all of us to kind of walk away with and think about. Sue has
Yeah.
shared, thank you, Phil. I really enjoyed your presentation, and she misses Soul Live.
Thank you, Sue. Appreciate it.
And Darla has shared, and Darla is our CEO here at the Orangeville Public Library, that you are a brilliant storyteller and you have her respect and admiration, and it just continues to grow. Thank you so much for all you do for our community, and how can we help you?
How can you help me?
Like, how can we help you continue to help serve the community?
No, I'll get back to her on that. We're gonna have some talks down there. I also want to say that in my digging and my research for this event, I came across some pictures from, I don't know what year, I think we were saying 2011, of us doing a library presentation here in downstairs of the library. And I found we kind of brought all the tropical foods, or unknown foods was the vibe. So we brought like sugar cane, and then showed like the molasses, and then showed the rum. We brought like coconut, showed coconut milk, and showed like some desserts that you can make. And so this is actually something that's full circle. Again, the fact that we're here on the opposite end of this, speaking about community, when, matter of fact, the library invited me to share at that time, and us being cognizant enough to be like, these are opportunities and these are things that we should be doing based off our upbringing. So we're all on the same wave, and the pictures are funny and hilarious too. Thanks, Darla, for back then, 2011. I don't know if you were here, but I assure you I can find the presentation, bring it up, and show you one time. And I'll definitely get back to you as to how you can help me continue to do what I do.
And Luke has shared, I think you're in a current cooking competition with other chefs. If it's still going, good luck.
Thank you, Luke. Yes, April 2nd. We made it to the second round, from 32 chefs to 16 chefs. And it's like a do or die competition. And the cuisine that we're gonna be doing is Spain. So I've been doing some research on the country and on their foods, street foods, family style foods. And so we're gonna try to do our best to replicate some traditional dishes. April 2nd, Saturday night. You can follow us online to see the progress.
Excellent. So definitely following you on social media to stay up to date on all these exciting things.
Yeah, for sure.
Jennifer has shared, Phil, you are such an inspiring speaker. So much respect for you. And storytelling is my new favorite thing.
Thanks, Jen. I appreciate you.
And Jennifer, we host the storytelling series every month, so we hope you'll join us again.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
Monica and Al have shared, thank you for all you have done for the community. We miss your jerk chicken.
Awesome, man. I miss cooking it.
And Ryan has shared, you are an inspiration. We are beyond proud of you and lucky to call you a friend.
Yes, Ryan. Ryan's birthday just passed too. Happy birthday, Ryan.
And so, Phil, just as we're about to wrap up, I just have one final question for you. You know, you shared a lot of your growth since you first came to Orangeville, and I wondered if you have any final thoughts on the Orangeville community, how far it's come, and maybe where you think we're headed in terms of becoming that inclusive and diverse community that everyone's working so hard towards.
Yeah, no, I think more than ever, other than the ears of people, the hearts are open. And I think that everyone's been put on notice, and, you know, compounded with the fact that we haven't even had each other. We haven't even you haven't even had your regular group of people. So it's really put people's hearts on notice to understand that it's a delicate and it's a fragile balance that as a society we have, and we should respect that and do a little bit more to be welcoming and forthcoming, because all of that stuff can be gone real quick. And I think people recognize that we're social creatures, mental health and stuff, you know, during the pandemic and whatnot, people need each other. And if we continue to build these barriers of who you can be with and who belongs over here, who belongs over there, we're doing ourselves a disservice more than anything. So, you know, I encourage everybody to just break down some of those barriers and continue to look after each other collectively. That would be my message.
Excellent. I think that's a beautiful way to end your presentation. And just to echo what Darla said, is one of our best attended events. You've blown everyone away. So thank you for sharing your story and having the courage to do all of the work you do in our communities.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thanks everyone for being here.
Yes, thank you everyone for joining us.